Welcome to Pressure Points. Our topic is day 3 of Apple's 3-day product extravaganza. As of this recording, which is about 2:30 Eastern time, shares of Apple are flat. The NASDAQ is up 1.6%, so clearly lagging the market. We'll get to why that may be the case, but I just kind of want to start with the highest level. They did save the most meaningful incremental announcement for last, a nod to Steve Jobs' one more thing, and that announcing this MacBook Neo. This is a $599 starting point. We, of course, have never seen that before. Previously, the entry-level point for the Mac lineup was the Air at $999. So this is a step function in terms of affordability. And of course, has at the center of the bullseye those younger users, kind of 7th grade through 12th grade. In terms of putting some perspective on what does a $599 product mean, because it's not replacing something. This is not going to cannibalize, for example, the MacBook Air. What does this mean is that this market, if we just take the US alone, is about 25 million students. Of course, not all of them will get a MacBook Neo, but these are new customers for Apple. Typically, they've gotten Chromebooks in the past. So this market is assumed that maybe 1 in 5 of them will eventually have one of these products. So think of this as kind of a 5 million in aggregate, and kind of take the approach that it takes maybe 3 years to kind of layer in. What you effectively get is that this would add a couple billion to revenue for the Mac business. In fiscal 25, the Mac business was $34 billion. And so think of this as probably a 6% bump. Half of that bump comes from U.S. education, and the other half just comes from other people. Of course, you can buy this Mac if you're not a student too, and there's also rest of the world. So it does clearly fall into the addition category in terms of revenue, a 2% addition to the Mac business. Doesn't really have that big of an impact on the overall business because it's a $4 or $2 billion increase, because it is a $450 billion revenue company. So we're talking about adding slightly less than 0.5% to overall revenue. But it is in the addition category, and we will see that in the June quarter. I had been doing the math over the past few days, and at the beginning of the week, the Street was looking for 7% growth in the June quarter. My math, it kind of took it to 9 with the 17E, to 10 with the new MacBooks price increase that we saw yesterday, and this probably takes it closer to 11 for that June quarter. So continues to de-risk the commentary around the June quarter. But what does this mean for margins? And that ultimately is the pressure point. Recall yesterday's episode of Pressure Points, we talked about Tim Cook's comment last earnings call about doing what's necessary to navigate this margin environment. And the increase in the Mac's pricing had an impact on this, but here we are with a $599 product. It's pretty skinnied down. I don't know if that's proper English or not, but this has 8 gig of memory and 256 of the solid state. So think of this as a pretty slimmed down. Of course, on the chip side, this uses the A18, which comes from the iPhone lineup. And this is something that's probably as powerful as like an M2 chip. They're on the M5 chip right now with kind of the more advanced Macs. And so you get some sense of where that's at. My take is that they're probably doing this at a similar margin profile as their the overall existing products. So I think that this still falls into the camp, even with this lower price Mac, even with what I think will be a successful product, still falls into camp where the Street is too low for the margin assumptions over the next couple quarters. They're at 48.5% for March. It largely doesn't get touched by this announcement. But in June through December, those drift down to 47.2. I suspect that it's probably going to land somewhere around 48% collectively for that June, September, and December quarter. And so no need to lose sleep over margins. I think Cook's got his handle on this, and there is a reason to lose sleep, because if your kids get a hold of these through their school, they will clearly be using these for non-educational purposes when you are sleeping. On behalf of Pressure Points, I'm Gene. Bye for now.